Hey everybody, Andrew here. Chris from Stockholm in Switzerland got in touch with me a while back ago. Now I'd done a review for the Squape, the original Squape, the V1, a while back ago. And he got in touch with me and said that they had a new one coming out. Now I'd seen this on the boards, you know, there was talk of perhaps a newer version coming out. But it was going to take a while for it to actually happen, so to be honest I didn't think that much more about it for the next while. But then he got in contact with me a few weeks ago, just to say that they were well on the way to actually putting this new one together, and would I be interested in having a look at a prototype of it and have a go of it. So of course, absolutely, because I always loved the Squape anyway. And so he sent it over to me. It arrived a few weeks ago. And basically I've been using it pretty much ever since. Now that was a sort of a prototype. Since then they've actually been, you know, refining it more and more and more till ultimately they got to this here. So this is the Squape Reloaded, and it's different in terms of appearance. It's similar to the version 1, but it has some sort of fundamental differences to it, both in terms of the look, but also in terms of the functionality of it and how it actually works. And also the options that you now have with the new Reloaded version. And I think that's kind of important, because what they have done is they've had feedback from people over time, because their first Squape went so well for a lot of good reasons. It was very revolutionary in terms of, you know, how the chimney works, how the deck works, you know, the fact that the innards of it is non-conductive, you know, so you don't have shorting issues and things like that. And they've listened to people, and what they've done is this Reloaded, if you like, is them having taken on board everything that's been said by all of the people, all the vapors out there, who've said, well, if you were to do this and if you were to do that or whatever, and they distilled it all down to a few fundamental changes, which is what they've implemented in this one here, in the Reloaded. Now, I think all of the changes that they have put in make a huge difference. They haven't gone away from their original idea. This is very, very much a Squape, but the added on extras make this even better than the original one. Now what I'll do is I'll go into and sort of show you all of the individual pieces, what the specific changes are within it. But, you know, just from the top end, very quickly, one of the most notable differences you'll see is this here. So now you have got 6 different airflow holes, and they are very, very simply changed by just moving this here. And the action on this is very nice as well. It's run by a ball bearing, you know, which basically means it just clicks perfectly into place every time. From the outside, other than that, the only real difference you're going to see here is you've got these triangles. In the past they were sort of ovals, and I really, really like this. Now, and you'll actually see that in the drip tip, or the squip tip as they call it, you can see that it's actually reflected in that as well. So you've got that same shape there. But I think that that looks really, really smart. Also, you'll see that there's a logo here, which is the Squape Reloaded logo on the front here, which is sort of set into it. Other than that, you know, finish is absolutely stunning, as the original one was. This is all made in Switzerland. Oh, another thing just to show you as well, that what I got also is you can get a brass airflow control ring as well, which I'll just show you here. And you can see it there, which is very smart. The brass looks really, really nice with the stainless steel. So that's terrific. So it just means that, you know, you can sort of change it depending on what mod you're actually putting it on. Now also in time there are going to be other colours coming out, which I think is going to be at the back end of August. One thing I did say to Chris, and you know, I had to say it, I mean, this is Swiss made, this is, you know, Swiss engineering at its very, very height. And so thinking about, well, what other Swiss things do we all actually know about out there? And the one that is triangular is would be Toblerone, wouldn't it? So, you know, I did wonder if that's where it came from. Apparently it didn't, but either way, I think as a design, it looks absolutely terrific. Now, I've got two of them on the go here at the moment. This one has got the curved deck in it, and it's got a microcoil with cotton. And I've got it on the middle, say the middle hole there at the moment, and it just goes like a dream. And you can really get huge vapor out of it if you want. I think this coil is running at about 1.4, something like that. And that is 12 milligram cigarillos in that particular one. I haven't had any dry hits at all. And now I said the curved deck. This is something that we'll go into because there are different deck options within it. There's one deck which is the standard deck, which is the one that comes with it. But you can also then buy separately two other decks, which is a curved deck and then also a wide deck as well. Now, I'll go through those individually with you so that you can actually see what they are and what the difference is. The main reason for having these decks is that everybody's got their own sort of view on what their favorite coil is, whether it's a microcoil and cotton or whether it's silica. If it's silica, is it 2 mil, is it 3 mil? Or do you actually go with two 2 mils or 1 3 and 1 2? All of these things. But the other one then, which I think is just terrific, and I've never did it in the original Squape, I'll just pop it on here, is mesh. And you can put a really good, very easy mesh wick into the standard deck, which has got a flat, just dial this up to where I want it to be. Let's see, where are we? Okay, again, I'll go the middle hole on this. And so yeah, this is mesh. This is going at about 1.3, I think it is. So it's got 0.2 Kanthal around a little mesh straw which is sitting into the deck. Again, I'll show it to you later. And this one again, it's absolutely gorgeous. Now this liquid here is a bit different. This is, if I can find it, is this one here, which comes from Smoke Different in Dublin, and it's called Alternative Smoking, and it is King Arthur. And it's a sort of a biscuity, banana-y kind of thing. Now, I don't really like banana, to be honest. You know, I'm not great on fruit, full stop. But this is really nice. And this is a 9 milligram. But again, in mesh, the flavour of this thing is just... There's nothing to get in the way of it. It is just the flavour, the vapour of the thing. So some people don't like cotton, some people don't like silica. Traditionally, I haven't really liked mesh because I always make a mess of it and I always short things out, and putting them into some atomizers is really quite difficult. And then with Genesis atomizers, you know, I have one at the moment which is working really well, but generally speaking, I've sort of stuck with K-Funds and things like that. But here we have mesh within this, and I'll do a big hole on this and let's see what happens. Absolute, I mean, crisp taste. Gorgeous. So the best thing really, I suppose, is for us to go down close. What I'll do is I'll show you the box. I'll show you all the various different bits and pieces that you get within it. And then I'll show you the options that you have in terms of decks, what you would do on each of those decks. And in the end, again, you've got potential for 3 decks. Remember, one comes with it as standard. But with those, between those 3 decks, you can put any kind of coil pretty much that you can imagine into this. And because the decks are non-conductive, it means that, you know, if you are using mesh, it's not going to short out on the sides or anything like that. It just makes life so much easier. So that's it, enough of that. We'll go in closer, have a look at it, and then I'll have a chat afterwards with you. Just thinking about it, probably the best way to start this is if I actually show you the video that Squape put together of the actual Squape. It's a very, very good video. It's all graphics, really beautifully done, and it shows exactly all the bits and how the bits sort of fit together. So that maybe is the best introduction to show it, because I'm sure I'm not going to be able to show it as well as they do. So we'll put that on now, and then I'll be back to you afterwards. Okay, so that's what it is. Now we go down and have a look at it. So this is how the Squape Reloaded comes, in a box like this. Squape or Reloaded, made in Switzerland. And on the back there we've got various bits of information talking about what it is that's within it, and what's included, etc. So that's that, straightforward enough. Then we open it up. Basically this slides out and we're left with this. Move this to the side. There we go. Again, information repeated on the back there. And then we open it up, and the first thing that we come across is this. And this is basically saying that when you're assembling it, because it doesn't come fully assembled, well, it comes mostly assembled, that when you're actually putting in the deck at the beginning, you need to put it in a certain way. Now it's very, very straightforward, but it's good that they actually show it here pictorially as to exactly what to do. It's in English on one side and German on the other side there. So again, very handy. Attention to detail, which is always good. And then here is this Squape Reloaded itself. Now, I can't remember whether this is exactly the way it came packed or whatever, but essentially these are the items that were inside it. In this case, it's a 000 serial number. So, if we take it out here, here's the unit itself, which is looking absolutely fantastic. Again, and I'll try not and say this too often, but the engineering on the Squape stuff is absolutely superb. It really is. So there it is there. And then also what comes with it is a bag of tricks. And in there you will get, and again I can't remember whether it came in this bag or a separate bag, but this is your deck. Also in there you get a couple of spare screws. And then also you get a couple of spare O-rings, and then you get this Allen key here, which I'll show you now why you need that. So that's essentially what's going on there. Let's take a run around this from the outside. 22 mils in diameter, which means that it fits perfectly onto any 22 mil mod. And because of the adjustable pin at the bottom, it means you can make it completely flush as well. So there it is on a Nemesis, looking very, very nice. Let's go from the bottom to the top. Okay, looking at the bottom there, we have our, let me just go in a little bit closer so you can see what's going on. So serial number at the bottom, and then we have an adjustable pin here. So that means that that can be turned, you know, to go in or out. So that means that whatever you're putting it into, you'll be able to make a contact, which is great. We have the much talked about airflow control there. And you can see that one there, that's the biggest, going to next, 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 and next. And the size of those holes are, let me just get this, is for the smallest one here is 0.9. The next one is 1.1 millimeters. The next one there is 1.4. Next one there is 1.8. Next one there is 2.2. And then for the monster, that one there is 3.1. So between all of those, really there's a great choice in terms of you know, what your vaping style is like. I tend to end up somewhere in the middle, unless I'm really trying to, you know, do massive long inhales and all the rest of it. This is how it comes as standard, but I also was lucky enough to get this here. And this is a brass airflow ring. So it just means that I can take one off and put the other one on. So let's take this out of here. Now this is very shiny at the moment. This will no doubt dull down over time, but it's been in plastic since it arrived. So with this, the airflow on this is actually done using a ball bearing, which is what makes it very. Now let's see if you can hear this. Not sure whether you can hear that, but it's very precise what's actually going on there. And it's because a ball bearing at the reverse side is actually controlling where it moves to. So if you want to change this, the easiest way to actually do it is to make sure that the ball bearing isn't in one of the little indentations on the inside, so the thing will slide off. So just turn it so that it moves freely, and once you do that, then perfect, it just comes off. Now, to look at what we have here, we can see there's the ball bearing, so that's what's controlling the airflow there, controlling the clicks on it, if you like. And this side here, this is the airflow, so that's where it's all coming in from. And dependent on the size of the hole that is sleeving over that, that's going to dictate the amount of air that's actually coming in. Okay, so let's just look at this one here, and you can see we've got our different hole sizes there. If we look on the inside at the back, you can see those little indentations, and those indentations are there to control the ball bearing. So in other words, when you go to turn it, the ball bearing will be in one of those, and then there's a little channel between it, so we're looking at the back here, there's a little channel between it and the next one, so as you turn it, it moves and then it goes click, and it moves click, 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 and so that's what actually controls the whole thing. Again, beautifully made. And again, to actually, and if I say again one more time, I'm going to kill myself. To actually put this on, you're best off putting it on with the ball bearing here not going into any indentation, right? So we can basically just push that down a bit, push it on like that, and then there we go. As you can see, that's the wrong way because the ball bearing is now pushing out of the hole. So we need to turn that around there, and there is our hole and the various different sizes. And that's not going to easily come off. It'll only easily come off when the ball bearing is not in a notch on the inside. So that's how that works. Relatively simple, beautifully made, and very efficient. Does the job very well. And then as we move our way up through it, there's the Squape logo. We have knurling here, which is always great. I think some people aren't mad into it. I personally would drive me mad if it wasn't there, because that's how you open it. That's where it actually opens. So it just means that you can always get a good grip on it no matter what. We've got then coming up on this one, on the previous one, there was a different sort of a finish between the windowed part and the rest. In this case it's not. It's the same sort of brushed steel right the way up through it. Although it does seem to be polished in here, just in between the, you know, in these little lines, which I think works very well, you know, in terms of the overall look of it. I think that looks excellent. What we have in here is borosilicate glass. And again, this is very stable insofar as it means that you can put most liquids in there and it's not going to break it down like it would do on some of the, you know, the plastic tanks that are there. So again, very nice. And we've got these, you know, triangles and inverted triangles going right the way around. Again, looks very nice. Then when we come to the top, we have this stepped top here, and then we've got the drip tip. And the drip tip, as I think I may have shown you earlier on, has got this. So in other words, it's reflected up there. And this they call the squip tip. So, and I believe that you're going to be able to get these in different sizes as well. So if you want to get longer ones, you'll be able to do so. But these drip tips, they're quite firm when they're in place. You can see there's 2 O-rings on them there to keep it in place. But any other drip tip will fit in here as well. So you can basically, if you've got a favourite, you can swap this out. But I think this looks very good on it, and I think it sort of completes the look of the whole thing. Okay, so let's take this apart quickly. And as ever, I can see my videos now starting to get a little bit longer than I had originally anticipated, so I'm going to try and speed things up a little bit here. So here's the inside. Obviously with the 2 posts here, we've got the 2 screws that go into the top. But onto this we need to put our deck. There are 3 deck options, but the one that comes as standard is this one here, which has got an S written on it. And the S deck essentially is a straight deck. Now, I don't know whether you can see there from the side, but essentially what you've got is a line going through, and then you've got a right angle going down at the end there. Now, what's really important to know on these decks is this channel at the side is not there to be filled with anything. That is there for liquid. So that when you actually put in a coil into this, put a wick into it, what you're doing is you're cutting it flush to the edge there. You're not pushing it down the side. That's really important to know. So here's an example of a coil that I've put into an S deck. Now, next one, and this is the one that comes as standard with the Squape, the S. Next one here is a curved one, so it's got C on it. And the difference between this and this is the edge of it. You'll see on this, the standard one, it just goes straight down at a right angle. On this one, it actually curves down. And with this curved one, it means that, again, there are certain wicks that'll just work somewhat better in this. So going back to this here, you know, this is perfect for silica. You can put a microcoil in with cotton, and you can put mesh in. And I've had a mesh one in this, and it is absolutely stunning. You know, it's a bit of a revelation for me. On this one here, what you could do is, I wouldn't necessarily be putting a microcoil in, although you certainly could. I haven't tried that in it yet. But I have had a double wick in, and you can see that here. And then our third option is this, the wide deck. And this is really specifically meant for cotton. And you can see at the side here, again, it's completely different to the other ones. It's really quite wide. Again, you don't want cotton going down the side here. You'll be bringing the cotton to the edge. And what that'll then do is leave this gap below for the liquid to actually come up into. So there's always a pool down here, which is feeding up into the wick on the top. And again, here's a picture of one that a coil that I put into this. So now to put, and I'm just going to put the standard one on for the moment. To put this onto this, the best thing to do is to actually lubricate the bottom here with some e-liquid. So let's see if I can find some here. I've got a nearly empty bottle here. See if I can squeak something out of it. And essentially just all you need is just a very small bit there to go around. And then likewise in this here, because this is going into an O-ring, which you can see on the inside. So essentially what is happening is that indentation that you see there is going to be held in there by that O-ring on the inside. So that's all got liquid on it now, and it should slot in perfectly. Now when you actually put it on, you'll hear a little click as it goes into place. Then you know it's seated properly. There's the click. Now one thing as well to know is that because these are very, very well fit, because these fit so snugly in, it can be sometimes a little bit difficult to get them back out. And because they don't waggle or anything like that, there's no point sort of moving it around trying to pull it off again. So what I think is the best is if you use something like this. So if you can see it, just a sort of, you know, a silicone glove or whatever, rubber glove. And if you do that, then it means you can get a grip on it, and it means you can pull it off with no issue at all. So I think that's really the tip. If you have got a number of these decks, if you've bought some of the other alternatives, which to be honest, I think the standard one is great, but these other ones just give you all that extra versatility. If you're swapping the decks out, best thing is just use a rubber glove like that, and it means it'll give you the grip. Because again, the last thing you want to do is use pliers or something on this, which would just be tragic, you know, because you could end up damaging. In fact, you almost certainly would damage this e-metal coated aluminium, which is what this deck is made from. Now I'm just going to put these screws back in here into the top, and then I'm just going to show you in terms of, I'm not going to go through making a load of different wicks for you, because frankly everybody's got their own way of doing it. And there are loads and loads of great videos out there to show you how to do these things. But I think what is important to know is when you're actually putting the coil in place, now whether or not, you know, say that, you know, there's a, which one are we on here? We're on the straight one. There's a 3mm wick, it goes in there like that. You're always going to want this to go, to push down into the channel on either side, okay? So the best way to keep that so that it is in place like that is to wrap your coil in a certain way. So if you look at this little coil here, which is a little bit messy, what's this one like here? Is this any better? Marginally better. If you look at this coil, the way it's working is that the legs are coming out at the top. So the leg is coming out of the top on the right and out of the top on the left. So that means that when you actually wrap that coil into this and basically screw it down, it means then that the coil is going to be in line in the channel like that. And that's what you need, because you really want to just basically try and keep the wick in line with the channel, going straight through whatever coil it is that you're putting in. If you were to actually wrap this the other way around, then that would mean that it's going to be sitting up, and then you're going to have to actually push the coil down into place, which again is adding extra wire at the ends here, which you could do without. So certainly, as far as I'm concerned, the best way to do it is so that the legs are at the top, so that it actually sits in line like that, and then you can basically tighten it up and you're ready to go. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier on, but this, everything in this, okay, this is obviously brass, this one here, but the other one is stainless steel, but generally the whole thing is stainless steel, apart from this piece here, the deck, and also the chimney, which I'll show you now in a second. And this is e-metal, I think they call it, e-metal coated aluminium. So this means it's non-conductive. So when you're putting in something like mesh or whatever, which I had in here earlier on, you know, you don't have to worry about things shorting out all over the place or whatever. It just makes life really, really easy. So let's put that aside and let's go to the top part here. I've taken the drip tip out already. Now you can see at the top there, you can see that little thing poking through. That's the top of the chimney, which is down here. So we have the Allen key here, which comes with it, and basically all you need to do is just unscrew that, and this is the chimney here. Now it's kind of funny because it's incredibly light. I mean, it's like paper, but it's very, very tough. And this is like the deck. It is e-metal coated aluminium, so again non-conductive. And essentially what happens is that fits into here. This is the tank. It seals into the top there, right up at the top, up there. And this screws in. It's got very, very fine threads at the top there. So when you are putting it in, just make sure that everything is lined up properly. As we look inside here, you can see the borosilicate glass is inside, but only starts just under here, right? And when this is fully filled up, it is 5 mils in terms of milliliters in terms of capacity. So let's just pop this back in and screw it gently into place. And again, as ever with any of these things, you don't need to, when they're well engineered, you really do not need to, sorry, excuse my phone there, you really don't need to screw them in terribly tight. So just so that it's firm, and that should be enough. So that's now in place. We can see it up at the top there, and we can put our drip tip back in again, like that. So, or our squip tip. Now, when you actually go to fill this, you're filling it down the side, right, between the chimney and the outer wall there. So what I would tend to use is something like this, which is a needle nose bottle, because it means that you can get it in. If I can show it to you, it means that you can just get it in very easily down the side and fill it up. You can also use a syringe or whatever you like. In fact, you can even pour it down the side there. But if you do, it can get a little bit messy and you can get some of it going over into the chimney. That's mostly because as the liquid is going in, it tends to sort of pull in the threads here. So the easiest thing to do is just use a needle nose of some sort to actually get it in. So that's it. And then to put it back together again, obviously just you have your knurling there, screw it up, and that's it. And it is now ready to put a coil of some sort in. Right, I reckon I'm going to stop it there. We're around the 30 minutes at this stage, so I really don't want to go on too long. There's lots of other things that I could talk about, you know, the Squape Reloaded. But I suppose the best thing is if I just sort of sum it up, if you like. In comparison to the first one, the original Squape, is it better? Yes, it is. It's better for a number of different reasons. I think that the deck works better now than it did before. The airflow control is just fantastic. It just means, you know, there's a hole size for no matter what wick or, you know, what amount of vapor you want to get or whatever. Flavor-wise, it's outstanding. It really is outstanding. For me, as I mentioned before, the big revelation is the mesh wick in it that I put into the standard one, the standard deck, which is the deck that comes with the Squape Reloaded. God, I mean, that's what I have in here at the moment. And by the way, you can see this is on a Provari. There is a Provari ring that they're going to make available. I'm not quite sure when. I don't have a price for it at the moment, but it will be available. But that's the mesh one in there, and to me it's just, oh, it's just absolutely fantastic. But equally as well, all of the other ones that I've gone through, the silica ones, whether it be sort of a single string or two strings put together, coiled up that way, they work superbly, absolutely superbly in both the S and the C decks. And then cotton works across all of them, but you know, the best one I suppose to use it in really would be a microcoil in the W deck. Now the W deck will take a coil up to sort of 3 mils wide. You know, it'll happily sort of fit into it, because it's quite wide, the channel, and as I showed you before, it's got deep wells on either side, so that there's always plenty of liquid sitting at the bottom that'll push its way up into the wick. So it means that you're not going to be getting dry hits or anything like that. Like the original Squape, I love the fact that you can just unscrew it upside down like that, and then either change your coil or, you know, sort of put in new liquid or whatever. Very, very easy. No mess whatsoever. If you put in the likes of a microcoil, it'll stay in there for a long time. You can just sort of burn it off in between. If you put in a mesh coil, like I did in this one here, then all you have to do is just wash it out after a while, give it a bit of an old burn, change the liquid, and bang, you're off into a whole new thing. And it just works fantastically. Price wise, well, the recommended retail price is €135 for the Squape Reloaded. Now that is, obviously, it's not cheap, but I think when you consider how well it's made and also the end result, what the quality of the vapor is like, what the quality of the flavor is like, which is really amazing, I would have to say that it's good value. Now, I didn't pay for it. They very kindly sent these to me to review, but if I was to say that I had a go of somebody else's and I tried it and I didn't have one, I would in all likelihood go and get one. Now, I liken or compare things, if you like, quite a lot to K-Funds, because K-Funds, that was my first really proper atomizer, tank atomizer, that just did everything absolutely perfectly. If I was to compare the two of them, which one? Well, for nostalgia's sake, I mean, I've got a lot of history with the K-Fund and I will never get rid of my K-Funds. But what will I be using every day? I'll be using this every day because it's just easier. Flavor wise, if you get a really good coil into a K-Fund, you're going to get an extremely good flavor off it. Likewise in this, I think it's easier to get a good coil into this to a certain extent. Plus as well, you've got the different types of coil and they're also easy to do. But also then the filling method is much easier on the Squape Reloaded than it is on the K-Fund. So I would have to say that my favourite tank atomizer now, without doubt, is the Squape Reloaded. There's no question about it. I think it's a game changer. I think that I'm not going to keep saying that the quality is amazing because it is. But anyway, that's basically it. So it's available in a number of different outlets, online and offline. Rather than listing them all for you, I'm just going to put up an address which will actually bring you to a web page that it shows where these things are available. This is on the Stadtquam website. That's probably the easiest thing because I would imagine also over time they'll find, there'll be more people actually selling them, and so you'll be able to see what the most up-to-date list is. They're due to go on sale on the 5th of July. I believe in the initial batch, there's a fair few in the initial batch, but also this is something which is very sort of hotly awaited, if that's a term, by lots of people. So I would imagine that the first batch is going to go pretty quickly. After that, then there'll be obviously sort of resupplying as they sort of, as the manufacturing sort of continues, they'll be putting batches out. Like I mentioned earlier on as well, they'll also have these coloured versions. These coloured versions, by the way, essentially what you're doing is you're getting a coloured tank and you're getting a coloured airflow control ring, right? You're not buying the whole thing coloured, excuse me, including the deck. So if you have one already, then you'll be able to buy the two bits to make it a different colour. If not, I think you'll be able to buy all the constituent bits or whatever to actually make up, whichever colour it is you want. But I'm not 100% sure about all of that, but you'll be able to check it out on their website where they'll give you all of the details in relation to it. So I think I'm not going to say any more because I've gone too long as it is. Congratulations to Stadtquam. This really is a reloaded Squape. This is a Squape which has just evolved on the basis of what other vapors were saying to them that they would like. And I think that's fantastic. Any manufacturer who listens to their customers and then improves their product on the basis of customer feedback, I think has to be a very committed company. And these guys really seem to be. I'd like to thank them for sending the Squape to me, the prototype originally, and then this fully finished version, which I have here now. And thanks for allowing me the opportunity to do the review. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you again soon. Cheers. By the way, because I didn't put any coils in this particular video, I did this mesh one, which I just absolutely love. So I'm just going to pop this on at the end. So any of you are interested, it's coming up shortly. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Then in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use some mesh. Now, again, this is mesh which I've already oxidized. It's exactly to the right width of from here to here, because you want to make sure that the mesh does not sit proud of either side here, because if it does, when you actually screw this in, it's going to damage the inside of your chimney. It's going to scrape the inside of your chimney. So you need to make sure that size-wise that it is the same width there. Now what you can do, and what I did, and to be honest I'm cheating here because this is from a previous one that I'd made for this, what you do is you just make it bigger, and then what you do is you then just chop either side so that it becomes completely flush. So that's the thing to do. I've got this on a pin, as you can see, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 4 wraps of 0.2 kanthal. So let's see if we can do this. Now, normally I wrap holding my right hand and I wrap over that way there. Because of the way the screws are on this, you always want to have the legs coming out of the bottom to each of these 2 sides, okay? Well, at least that's ideally. So what I need to do on this is I need to actually wrap it, rather than over, I need to wrap it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And that looks like it should be just about right. We're in the middle there. Now, what I was mentioning, I'll go back ever so slightly. What I was mentioning there about the legs, if they're coming out of the bottom like that, at that side, when I actually lay that in there, can you see that the legs are coming off at the top? Sorry, I may have said the bottom. I meant the top. So the legs are coming off at the top there, which means that when I sit this in to the hole like that, that the wires are basically in line with each of the 2 screws. So that just means that it's going to, should be just that little bit tidier. So what I'll do is I'll just tighten this one down here. And then over on this side, again, I'll just pull that wire in there like that. And I'll tighten that down as well. And that should be pretty much okay. So, get rid of these tails here. So one gone there, and get rid of that tail there. So that's gone there. And then while it's still on the pin, now I'm no great mesh expert, as anybody who knows me will attest to. And you know what, it just goes to show, because I've actually left it now so that I've got 1, 2, I've got 5 here, which is more than I wanted. So just even those out a little bit like that. And then once we've got it like that, and that looks reasonably neat to me, we can take the pin out, actually just reposition this because it's gone over to one side ever so slightly. And again, I need to keep this flush on both sides. So let's just pull this back a little bit. Now the one thing is once you've got one of these in place, it can stay in place for a long time, because you can just basically burn it off each time you want to change liquid within it. So let's see how that works. Okay, so let's give that a go. Now, moment of truth. I'm going to stick it on a mod, and then we're just going to pulse it like you always would with mesh, just to make sure that we don't have any hot spots or whatever. So here's hoping it doesn't blow up. Okay, so there we go. And for me, that looks pretty good. Now, this is coming from a non-mesh expert, but that looks pretty good to me. So let's just stick it on. Have I got something that will give me the ohms on it? I'll stick it on the Provari here. See what it's coming out at. It's coming out at 1.4 ohms, which is fine. So that's it. That's ready to go. So all I need to do now is essentially take the top here, get some liquid and fill it up. Now to fill it up, basically you just literally down the side there and just fill it up to the point where you don't want it obviously to overflow, but that's pretty much filled up there. So that's got about 5 mils inside it. Now I'm just going to take the top off. Again, it's a handy thing. You can just take the squip tip off, just keep it upside down like that. Nothing's going to leak out of it while you sort the other bit out. So the other bit for me is, let's just pop this on here. Just get a bit of juice onto the top here, just see how it's going before I actually commit it to the tank. Now I've used up nearly all this liquid, but just put on a little bit there and see how she goes. And I think you'll probably agree that looks like that's kind of going pretty well. Okay, so let's screw this in like this, just again holding this way. Let's pull it back a little bit and then just screw it in. Now if you hear any crunching at all from the mesh on the chimney on the inside, stop and then just take it out and trim it a little bit just to make sure that nothing is touching onto it. So that's it now, all in place. Put that on.